Welcome back to Mystery Rift. I'm your host, and as always, we're peeling back the veil on the inexplicable. I've been away, doing some deep dive fieldwork out of town recently. You'll see the full, unsettling results of that trip in the next several months, and trust me, it connects to everything we discuss here. The world is a bizarre place right now, full of gaps in our understanding. Today, we're talking about a phenomenon that hits the missing 411 profile dead on, one that defies all conventional logic. Before we dive into the chilling new cases, I have to ask, how many of you watched the first documentary on the subject, Missing 411? It focused exclusively on young children who vanished without a trace. The grim logic behind that focus was to counter the skeptics, the pessimists of the world. If you can't believe an adult could traverse 20 miles of wilderness, maybe you'll listen when it's a 2-year-old. When I tell people a 2-year-old boy was found 30 miles away, having hiked through raw wilderness, the instant reaction is always a dismissive, "Oh, come on, they were driven." But what happens when the facts eliminate all mundane explanations? What if there are no roads? What if the wilderness is utterly impassable for a toddler? That's where the human-centric explanation breaks down. Even young parents I spoke to recently insisted, there is simply no way a kid could do that. That's insane. Exactly. Today we explore two such cases, separated by over 70 years but linked by a terrifying, shared impossibility. The first is a cornerstone of the mystery, Keith Parkins. He went missing on April 10, 1952, in Ritter, Oregon. 2 years old, in a far, far northern, extremely remote area. He was with his older brothers, playing near a barn, a mundane, everyday scene. The older boys reported they walked around the back of the barn, and then, in a blink, Keith was gone. Vanished. This is the first cold flag. A witness losing sight of a child in mere seconds, in an open area. The search started immediately. Remember the rule. 95% of all 2-year-olds are found within 1 to 3 miles. That's the rule. But this was Oregon in April, cold, with snow on the ground. Time was critical. Searchers, mostly locals, scoured the mountains through the night. Then, 19 hours later, Keith was found, 12 air miles away. He was unconscious, face down in the snow. 12 miles. His own father said Keith would have had to be running to cover that distance. And this was not flat ground, it was mountain ranges, barbed wire fences, and freezing creeks. It defies the physical laws of childhood movement. But here is the truly unsettling question. He was found by a single search and rescue volunteer 12 miles outside the standard search perimeter. Why was this person searching so far out? The only rational possibility is that a general radio bulletin asked distant ranchers to check their properties. This suggests the search team itself had given up on the standard profile. It suggests they suspected something other than a simple wanderer. When we made the documentary, we brought in Les Stroud, Survivor Man, to replicate the supposed journey. What he found was chilling. Around 2 a.m., Les stopped his crew. He flat out said, "This is insane. We're going to walk off a cliff or break a leg. It's impossible to navigate this in the dark." The darkness itself becomes an accomplice to the mystery. Les broke down the impossible timeline. Keith was missing 19 hours. Subtract 8 hours for sleep because kids do not move in the terrifying dark. That left 11 hours to cover 12 air miles. But people don't walk straight. Applying the wilderness wandering factor, Keith had 11 hours to traverse 20 miles or more over deadly terrain. This is the signature of the non-human factor, a seemingly instantaneous displacement. We have to consider the extraordinary. It's almost as if Keith was momentarily transported, moved through a subtle, localized dimensional rift or a field of unexplained energy. He was simply dropped at a distant point. And here is the psychic toll. Keith had no memory. A common, disturbing thread in these cases. The abductee returns with no recollection of the ordeal. Now, fast forward to a new, chillingly similar case. A recent one. The boy's name is Bowden Allen. He was 2 years old, and he went missing on April 14, 2025. Just 4 days different from Keith's initial disappearance, decades earlier. The pattern is cyclical, perhaps guided by a grim astronomical schedule we don't understand. Bowden vanished around 3:30 p.m. from his home in Seligman, Arizona. His mother heard the door close, assumed it was one of the older boys, and then found him missing 30 minutes later. The search began quickly. But in Arizona, the danger is immediate. Poisonous snakes, Gila monsters, and critically, mountain lions. The authorities brought in a law enforcement helicopter equipped with FLIR, forward-looking infrared. What they found within a 2-mile radius was alarming. 2 separate mountain lions roaming the area. This elevates the urgency. I've always advocated for dogs. A dedicated dog is the best defense against these predators, who recognize a vulnerable, undefended yard. The searchers scoured the logical radius all night. Nothing. Then, at 8 a.m. the next morning, 7 air miles from his house, a man named Scott Dunn found him. Bowden was with Scott's ranch dog, Buford, a massive Anatolian Pyrenees mix. The boy was found walking alongside the 150-pound dog. Bowden's explanation: "I slept under a tree way down there with your dog. She kept me warm all night." Buford, a livestock guard, had become Bowden's protector. A truly miraculous intervention. Yet the journey itself remains a profound mystery. Scott, the rancher, said Bowden had to cross 2 large mountains and extremely rough, rocky terrain to reach his ranch. Scott stated, unequivocally, "I can't believe the kid made it that far." Again, the impossible distance. Bowden was missing for 16 hours. He claims he slept. Subtracting 8 hours for sleep leaves Bowden only 8 hours to travel. Applying the same wandering factor as Keith, 7 air miles translates to at least 14, maybe 20 miles of hiking. 8 hours to travel 20 miles over mountains, with no food or water. It's a physiological impossibility. Bowden got home and acted like nothing even happened. His clothes were torn, he had scratches, but he had no memory. This distance, the terrain, the lack of memory, it speaks to a shared unseen force. We must consider a localized, low-level UFO disappearance where the child is returned, disoriented, or perhaps a temporary dimensional rift that displaced him. The fact that this case is so similar to Keith Parkins, both 2 years old, vanishing in April, found an impossible distance away, is the signature of a paranormal activity in the wild. The distance is the signature. The missing memory is the key. The children are simply too small, too weak, too incapable to have done this without an external, powerful force. That was Huck. She must be bored with my stories. Apologies, Huck. That's her. On a lighter note, a friend sent me a funny license plate. Huck TV from the great state of Montana. My fishing guide friend even asked me for a bunch of Huck's hair to make fishing flies. This big dog keeps the chaos away. The core truth remains. It's not the individual cases, but the terrifying, consistent pattern that must be addressed. Search and rescue manuals based on mundane statistics fail in these areas. The 2-year-olds we discuss here on Mystery Rift are victims of something far more complex, something that manipulates distance and time. Whether it's a localized Bigfoot phenomenon moving the child, a brief alien abduction, or the dimensional rift theory, the evidence points away from simple wandering. Please share this on your social media. Young parents need visibility to this unsettling reality. And if there's one thing I would advise any young parent, get a Pyrenees. I'm not kidding. That mountain lion threat is real, and it will find its way onto your property. Get a dog like Buford. It could be the only difference between an impossible journey and a true tragedy. Thanks for being here. Be patient. Be kind. Kindness is free, and if you can't find it, exude it yourself. Join us next time as we explore more deep, dark corners of the unexplained. Mystery Rift out.